Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission, as always, is to take a complex stack of sources, articles, research, or in this case, a really remarkable primary document, and just pull out the single cohesive story that matters to you.
And today, we are diving deep into a singular piece of writing. It's the final, rambling confession of a man named Ray Green.
Penned in his New Mexico kitchen, October 11th, 1989.
Yeah, and this document it's something else. It's an autobiography, but it's disguised as a kind of death warrant. It's a hybrid.
A hybrid of what? A suicide note, a memoir.
Exactly. Part suicide note, part memoir, and, part philosophical manifesto. Our deep dive today is really about extracting two things from it.
Right.
First, the facts. The facts of Ray Green's really extraordinary dual life. First, as this secret radio superstar, and then later as a civilian facing, immediate death.
And the second thing?
The second thing is to analyze his highly unusual final philosophy, his ideas about heroism, about betrayal, and what he calls the very physics of the human soul.
So he's basically trying to rewrite his own obituary before the official one gets printed.
That's a perfect way to put it. He's seizing control of the narrative.
It sets up an incredible story of contradiction, doesn't it? I mean, here's a man who lived the absolute epitome of American idealism through his work. But in his private life, he experienced just the darkest kind of cynicism and personal failure. Okay, so let's unpack this. Let's set the stage. We're in the hour of darkness, October 1989.
Right. Ray Green is 73 years old. He's writing what he believes is his final testament in Mason, New Mexico.
And the setting is everything. It's not some grand, dramatic location.
No, not at all. It's his kitchen table. And he's contemplating suicide with a very specific tool.
A snub-nosed .38 revolver.
A snub-nosed .38. And crucially, he notes that this gun was handed to him by his arch foe.
Wow. Okay, so that immediately establishes the stakes. This isn't just a man giving up.
No. He's not just dying. He is trying desperately to control the story around his death. He wants to make sure that the official, sanitized record, what he calls the Fonus Ballonis official FBI file, is updated with his personal truth.
His unvarnished truth.
Exactly.
It sounds like a desperate, almost last-ditch attempt to posthumously settle scores.
It is. He says he wants his memoir to lay in heavy axe upon the necks of the people he feels betrayed him.
Whether that betrayal happened 50 years ago or yesterday.
It doesn't matter. The wound is still fresh. And to really understand that defiance, you have to understand the two, sometimes three, identities he was carrying his whole life.
Right. Let's break those down.
Well, on one hand, you have just plain Ray Green, the man he describes with this almost painful self-deprecation.
A skinny Jewish kid from Philadelphia, bald on top by the unfair age of 22.
Yeah. He was physically unimposing, personally vulnerable, but the world knew him, or at least it knew his voice. It's two totally different men.
The first one being the hero, the Green Ray.
The Green Ray. He was the voice of pure, unfettered idealism. A force that's the line. He defended the defenseless and punished the criminal who fought to purge wrong and keep America strong.
The classic radio hero.
The classic. And then there was the on-air alter ego, the public face that the villains were always chasing.
The Playboy alias Peter Tremaine.
Peter Tremaine. So Ray Green, the man, gets hired in 1938 by Howard Silverstein, the president of Liberty Broadcasting Company.
And it's almost entirely because of a coincidence.
Almost entirely. The name, Ray Green, was just a perfect phonetic match for the Green Ray. It was that simple.
And he's very honest about it. He admits he would have taken any name. He says, I would have told him my name was Franklin Delano Roosevelt if it was going to make a difference because the year was 1938 and good jobs were scarce.
And that gratitude to Silverstein, that acknowledgement that his whole life was built on sheer commercial chance.
Yeah.
That's really the first seed of his profound cynicism.
That cynicism is just fundamental to understanding where his head is at in 1989.
Oh, absolutely. Think about it. He performed acts of fictional good for 8 years, right? But he observed his whole life that heroism is often just a lie layered over economic desperation.
He notes that beneficial acts are almost never truly altruistic.
Never. He says they inevitably contain some selfish human motive, which, in his view, makes a mockery of all decent human efforts.
And he uses this really devastating historical example to back that up, arguing that genuine prosperity it actually required immense tragedy.
It's a brutal point. He looks at the fallout from the Great Depression and World War II, and he says bluntly that it took a global war and the deaths of millions of people just to puff the stock market back up to its old level of success after the '29 crash.
So for Ray, Even our collective human triumphs are just a cynical side effect of immense suffering and greed. It's a very dark, fatalistic way to see the world.
It is. And if high-minded heroism is just a cover for selling products, and historical progress is just a byproduct of mass death, then what happens to the spiritual meaning of life? What about death?
He tackles mortality with that same kind of scientific detachment, doesn't he?
He does. He's been reading reports, even from places like the National Enquirer, about people who momentarily died and came back.
The classic near-death experience.
The classic floating, traveling down a tunnel, seeing a bright light, all of it.
But they get pulled back. He says they're pulled back by something he calls purpose.
Right. And he defines that purpose very, very narrowly. He says the purpose is to return and tell other people with a kind of medical certainty that, and this is a quote, "Death is so, do not worry about it. It will be okay, so concentrate on life."
So he's stripping death of all its mystery.
Completely. For Ray, there's no eternal reward for being a hero. There's no punishment for being a villain. There is simply a biological dispersion of atoms.
And his job, before that dispersion, is just to concentrate on life, however messy or cynical it is.
Exactly. And that acceptance, that sort of grim scientific peace, is what gives him the calm to face the .38. He knows his essence won't be lost, just repurposed.
That sets up the philosophical tension perfectly. The man who accepted the end of the world on a soundstage every week now faces his own end with this strange, almost scientific acceptance.
Yeah.
But before we get to 1989, there were the glory years. Let's shift our focus to part 2, the golden age of radio. The Green Ray, 1938-1946. This is where we see the machinery of manufactured heroism really at work.
Oh, it was an incredible commercial engine. The man in charge, Howard Silverstein, he rose up at Liberty Broadcasting by trusting his gut, playing hunches,
And most successfully, gambling big on a very, very specific product.
Spiller's high-energy buckwheat breakfast flakes.
We really can't underestimate the role of the sponsor here, PK Spiller. This wasn't just any cereal.
No, it was a commercial necessity, especially since Spiller's flakes were advertised specifically for their gentle laxative effect.
The irony is just. It's absolutely devastating when you put it in the context of Ray Green's state in 1989.
It really is. Ray, the aging hero, he writes about his lifelong struggle with a spastic colon and severe constipation.
And he blames it directly on the diet of phlegm-causing foods he had to promote endlessly for Spiller.
The very brand that built his heroic identity literally poisoned his digestive system for decades.
The cost of celebrity manifesting in the most humiliating biological way possible.
Yeah. And the merchandise, of course, that was legendary. The Green Ray's enduring, tangible legacy wasn't justice or truth.
It was the 12 tough, washable plastic statuettes available, free inside every single specially marked box of Spiller's high-energy buckwheat breakfast flakes.
A plastic trinket tied to a laxative breakfast cereal. That was the physical proof of his 8 heroic years.
And all of this commercialism, it demanded one thing from Ray above all else.
Complete, absolute secrecy. Silverstein was adamant that Ray Green's true identity, the skinny, bald Jewish kid, had to be hidden.
Why?
He believed that public knowledge of who he really was would interfere with the mission of the Green Ray. The hero had to be a disembodied, perfect voice. The man, the actual person, had to be invisible.
Only a few people were in on the secret. The production crew.
Right. Producer Argyle, engineer Burroughs, and the assistant Leon Kern. And Kern had this great insight into Ray's unusual physicality and his vocal power.
Oh, the quote about the echo chamber.
Yes. Kern famously remarked, "He's all sticks and bones, but with his voice who needs the echo chamber."
His voice was that powerful.
So powerful that Ray had to stand significantly farther back from the microphone than anyone else in radio history. The distance was physically measured and logged. He was literally a voice that was too big for his own body.
And that physical separation from the mic just made his voice even more disembodied, more mysterious.
Exactly.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting for me. The man writing the scripts, Lamont Carruthers, he was another really complex figure full of dark humor who eventually...
Meant that a tragic, self-inflicted end.
Yeah.
Carruthers is a fascinating study in what you might call revenge writing. He was utterly disillusioned, which really mirrored Ray's own later cynicism.
And he committed suicide by jumping from the 38th floor executive dining room during the show's wrap party,
turning his own death into a final dramatic spectacle. And Ray later figured out that Carruthers saw him, the Green Ray, as his personal mouthpiece.
A mouthpiece for what?
for covertly spewing what Ray called oodles of commie propaganda in every single episode. Messages that Ray, the loyal actor, just sang out with such fellow feeling.
But his final, totally inscrutable sayings are what define him. The two phrases he left behind are the key to his whole philosophy.
They really are. First, as he was going out the window, he shouted, "This machine kills fascists."
Which is historically loaded. That's Woody Guthrie's guitar inscription.
Exactly. So he's placing himself squarely in the political anxieties of the time. He's using the commercial machine of radio to fight his own perceived political enemies.
And the second clue, the written one.
He left a note that said, "A clue is never a secret, but a secret is always a clue."
What are the implications of that? What do you think he meant?
I think it speaks to the nature of their whole operation, doesn't it? The Secret Ray's real identity was necessary for the show's success. But it was also the clue to the entire thing that the idealism was fake.
The secret was the proof of the lie.
Yes. Carruthers told Ray bluntly that his motivation was purely personal. He said, "Revenge makes the world go round. It's the only motive there is."
And who is he getting revenge on?
P.K. Spiller, the cereal guy. Turns out Spiller was a former bootlegger who gave Carruthers a miserable job after the 1929 crash. So the entire foundation of the Green Ray was built on revenge, propaganda, commercialism, and a laxative cereal.
Just incredible. Okay, so let's pivot to the actual theatrical plot points. Because even though the motivation behind the scenes was so cynical, the action was high drama. We have to introduce the Green Ray's arch nemesis from the 1940s, Professor Lionel Horvath.
Horvath was the archetypal cartoon villain. His backstory was pure theater. He escaped from Alcatraz by submarine.
Of course he did.
And his goal was pure megalomania. He wanted to control all the city services, water and power, sewer the police, so he could dub himself the top banana.
It's villainy as pure power-driven ego.
It is. And Ray played his own part perfectly, using his alias Peter Tremaine as what he called perfect camouflage.
How so?
Well, in one episode, Tremaine gets arrested for kidnapping a socialite named Rosalind Bentley. This public disgrace was actually his perfect cover. It allowed him to operate unseen as the Green Ray, while the cops were all focused on the kidnapper, Tremaine.
A great reversal of expectations.
Yeah.
Perceived criminality facilitates true heroism.
Exactly. But the threats, they escalated dramatically. In the final adventures, Horvath rebranded himself as Mr. Regis, funding a mysterious organization called Gelobos, and his target shifted from local services to global paralysis.
This is where the plot hits peak absurdity, but also peak thematic relevance. Horvath planned to use an A-bomb to destroy the only two sources of a very specific, very raw commodity.
Kickapoo nuts.
Kickapoo nuts. This is what grounds the high stakes in this delicious, mundane reality.
It does. Ray details that these nuts were only grown in two places on Earth, the Amazon region of Brazil and a tiny 100-acre marshland in Maryland.
And their oil was essential for modern manufacturing. He lists the products.
He does. Auto parts, nylon stockings, and, hilariously, mayonnaise.
Mayonnaise. So Horvath's plan wasn't just world domination, it was crippling the global economy by destroying a key ingredient for salad dressing and stockings.
It shows you how interdependent the modern world was even back then. Everything's connected.
And the ultimate climax of the show, it involved Ray revealing his true identity to Horvath during a struggle in a plane. A struggle over a ticking detonator.
And the sound effect for the explosion, this is a great detail, was Leon Kern dropping a 5-gallon water bottle. And it was so huge it symbolically blew the door off the entrance to the vault of time.
And even as the show ended, Ray was delivering this message of pure American idealism. He tells the defeated Horvath that America is people of many races and colors and creeds, all with one thing in common, the chance to better their lives.
He's preaching unity and opportunity, while at the same time concealing his own identity and benefiting from the deep cynicism of his writer. And this inherent contradiction is really what fueled his later emotional breakdown.
Because immediately after this huge professional victory came the core personal wound of his life. Let's talk about love, betrayal, and the kosher ham. Ray was completely obsessed with the actress Annie LaSalle.
Real name, Vilma Gobenovich. And he describes her in these glowing but also tragic terms. She was beautiful, but he sensed something hard and broken in the heart of her.
And when he finally declared his love for her, she just shut him down.
A flat rejection, claimed she was involved with a man already, which he quickly figured out was a lie just to push him away.
But the true deep scar came from his friend and his roommate, David Arkash.
Yes. Ray caught David and Annie kissing in the green room. And David, who had this nickname, the Kosher Ham, because of his high-strung, dramatic acting style, he didn't even apologize.
He claimed he was protecting Ray.
This is a classic, expertly executed double cross. David claimed Annie was only interested in fame and fortune, a squirrely twist, and that she had been planning to publicly humiliate Ray.
So he positioned himself as the reluctant savior.
Sacrificing his friendship with Ray to prevent Ray's public disgrace, he told him she was my kind of girl, not yours.
And the insults he hurled just cut straight to Ray's biggest insecurity: his lack of any real-world status outside of that microphone.
He challenged him directly. He said, "You can't even get a good table at a Midtown automat. Name one maitre d' who knows you're on the radio. Where's a doorman who ever heard your name?"
The implication was brutal and clear. Ray Green, the man, was a nobody.
The voice was famous. The man was invisible. David had the glamour and the real-world currency that Ray's secrecy had denied him.
And this led to a physical confrontation in a boxing ring.
A brutal one. David landed blow after blow, all while accusing Ray, "You gonna let Annie do this to you too? She'll punch your heart right out." Ray was just physically and emotionally defeated, and that loss, I think, really defined his feeling of inadequacy for the next 40 years.
Okay, so let's fast forward. We go from the glamour and the betrayal of the 1940s to the mundane reality of 1989. The heroic ideals Ray broadcast during the Golden Age are about to crash head-on into his grim personal reality. This brings us to part 3. The reluctant hero rises again, 1989.
And the catalyst for his re-entry into heroism was incredibly ordinary.
A 2-hour and 10-minute electrical blackout in Mason, New Mexico.
Yeah, a temporary vacation from the normal world. And Ray notes that he sat in the dark, waiting for the hope of normalcy to fade, which took, he says, precisely 2 hours and 10 minutes, somewhat longer than the national average.
And he recognized the change in circumstances. He realized this temporary absence of light was the perfect time for Peter Tremaine, the Playboy alias, to return.
And how did he announce it? Through an incredibly archaic medium.
A classified ad in the Mason Examiner, using his old radio codes.
It's a wonderful collision of eras, isn't it? The ad read, "Is the hour of darkness upon you? Is all hope gone? I will blaze the F-sheds to DFD-FL FCP Tremaine."
Blaze from shadows to defend the defenseless, free of charge.
Exactly. And the ad clerk who took the copy was actually the one who suggested the abbreviations. She said older readers knew them by heart. So Ray believed that if a hopeless person understood the code, they were inherently worthy of his help. He was relying on this shared cultural memory of the golden age of radio to filter his clientele.
His first success was the Charmaine Abercorn case. Charmaine, a 14-year-old girl with very distinctive magenta and pink-striped hair.
She was found searching through garbage boxes in the foul East 8th area. And Ray located her and returned her anonymously to her father, Al Abercorn.
This was pure Green Ray idealism, a quick, efficient defense of the defenseless demanding no reward.
But this is 1989, and his heroism is immediately challenged by modern cynical media.
Right. A local radio host, Joe Hayes, he seizes on the story.
And just mocks Al Abercorn on the air, calls the hero story hooey, implies Al is just seeking attention, even makes these disgusting insinuations about unnatural urges toward his own daughter.
So the media climate is completely different. In the 40s, the ideal of the Green Ray was protected by sponsors and secrecy. In 1989, the act of heroism itself is treated with suspicion and sensationalized into filth.
It's the constant tension of the memoir, but, Ray's anonymity held up. The local paper ran the headline, "No clue to identity of green-clad hero."
And that confirmation that he could still succeed in the real world, that's what cemented his new late-life purpose.
It did. But the hero's body, as we talked about earlier, it had its own limitations. His physical health was constantly betraying the youthful vigor of his voice. After getting struck on the head during the Charmaine case,
He went to see a doctor.
he did. Dr. Godfrey assured him he had a heart like a horse, but dismissed the head injury, saying, "You aren't the swamp thing." But Ray's main complaint was his chronic, debilitating constipation.
The spastic colon he blamed on Spiller's phlegm-causing foods all those decades ago.
The ultimate expression of this ongoing, embarrassing war between the heroic ideal and the compromised body was his insistence on getting a high colonic, an enema.
Despite Dr. Godfrey's very stern, very memorable warning.
Enemas are the enemy of the poop hole. Yes, Ray's lifelong physical suffering is a direct physiological consequence of his commercial past. He's literally trying to purge the toxicity of his sponsored life, but his body just rebels.
It's a powerful metaphor for his inability to escape the commercial foundation of his entire heroic existence. Even the laxative cereal he was currently eating, he calls it his morbid last meal on Earth.
His disguise strategy is so telling. When he returned to the East 8th, he didn't use a mask or a costume. He relied on his visible age and an emerald green safari suit.
He wanted criminals to think he was not dangerous. He was weaponizing his own vulnerability.
It's the anti-Green Ray strategy. The hero hiding in plain sight, relying on the criminal's assumption that an old man in a bright suit is harmless. Which brings us directly to the Amelia Vasquez encounter. This is the event that spirals Ray into his final tragedy.
Okay, so during the blackout, Ray witnessed Amelia Vasquez, who he notes as a Scorpio, being abducted.
By two guys, Nilo and Perry the Rascals, or Gunsels, in a 1978 Cadillac Eldorado.
And his initial instinct, the instinct of the self-preserving man, was to run.
He fled. But he stopped when he heard her cries again, recognizing it as the universal voice of innocence crying in terror. That voice was the sound he had been trained for decades to answer.
And he threw himself into the fray. He even notes that the excitement of the confrontation stiffened his dingle.
Yeah. The hero's purpose, even in old age, was undeniably tied to this physical, primal confrontation.
Amelia later reappears at his apartment, and they have this immediate bond over their astrological signs, this fixation on cosmic signs. It's like Ray is clinging to a new deterministic structure for his life.
It's a desperate replacement for the structure that Liberty Broadcasting used to provide. Amelia, the Scorpio, tells Ray, the Sagittarius, that he is destined to help her drive to her Uncle Tio in Gonzales, New Mexico.
And she cites the stars. Sagittarius love exciting challenges. I did not have the power to fight off the urge of the stars.
Ray technically resisted that determinism, countering that he made up his own mind. Where I find wrong, I trample it. Where I find goodness, I raise it. But he took the case anyway. He said he needed to explore Amelia's character so he would know what to expect.
You thought he was being cautious.
But he was merely walking into a web spun by his ultimate arch foe.
Which brings us right into part 4. The betrayal, the FBI agent, and the border smuggling. The real horror here is that Ray Green's old-fashioned, clear-cut idealism is about to collide with modern, bureaucratic corruption.
And the setting for this realization is just perfect. The upside-down house tourist attraction in Gonzales. This structure is a perfect symbolic representation of the moral inversion Ray is about to face.
How so?
Well, the main attraction makes the bedroom appear inverted. The furniture, the ceiling lamp, it's all reversed. Ray is focused on this illusion, but then he steps outside the perspective and he sees the actual American flag, Old Glory, hanging upside down.
And to Ray, this isn't just an optical trick. It's a symbol of anarchy.
His response is pure, unadulterated Green Ray. He climbs the desk inside the illusion to physically flip the flag right side up, believing his work ensures the world outside views Old Glory correct and proper. He feels very satisfied by this small, symbolic victory.
But this act of symbolic heroism is meaningless, and it's costly.
Exactly. While Ray is distracted, fixing the illusion of national order, Amelia accidentally spills hot coffee everywhere, and Ray notes that consequences sneak up on you. The consequence of focusing on symbolic patriotic acts is missing the real danger brewing right in front of him.
And that real danger emerges moments later when Amelia reveals her associate is FBI Special Agent John Newberry, the father of her daughter Dolores.
Ray's shock is genuine and profound. He still believes in the fundamental sanctity of institutions. He thinks an FBI agent is sworn, quote, to uphold the law of our land and protect citizens from harm. He is still operating in a 1940s moral universe where the G-man is the good guy.
But Newberry is a villain born of economic frustration. Amelia confirms she runs illegal immigrants, muchachos, across the border as a sponsor, paying off federales and hiring mules.
And here's the core motive that connects Newberry right back to Ray's original cynicism: money. Newberry's honest career salary is a miserable $2,250 a month.
And that meager income, combined with the moral opportunity of his position, it just warps him.
It does. He agreed to an illicit arrangement. He would bust her, then give her a job by setting up Amelia's competition, which would get him wealth, leverage, and a promotion. Newberry is the perfect illustration of Ray's thesis, that money is the ultimate corrupting force.
But Newberry's not even in control anymore. He's now collaborating with local citizens patrols led by a man named Wayne Feather,
the CPS. And they are performing these egregious acts like a surprise attack on the Bluebird Motel with shotguns. They're efficiently killing Amelia's mules, and now they're working their way up to the sponsors. Newberry is just desperately trying to manage the situation and protect himself.
and he tries to deceive Ray, claiming Amelia is vicious and dangerous.
So Ray, desperate to protect her name and stall for time, invents the most ridiculous lie imaginable, that they're getting married after meeting via Lonely Heart's Ad.
It's a desperate theatrical attempt at camouflage, just like Peter Tremaine's fake kidnapping. But this time, it's not for heroism, it's for survival.
And Newberry just destroys that camouflage immediately. In this horrific display of control, he forces Nalo, one of the original Gunsels who helped abduct Amelia, to provide a mock confession detailing Amelia's murder.
Describing her nakedness and the sexual assault in graphic, degrading detail.
This act wasn't just about getting evidence, it was about crushing Ray's idealism. It was designed to shatter Ray's protective feeling toward Amelia by painting her as this disgusting victim unworthy of his rescue.
But it had the opposite effect.
It did. Ray's rage just ignited. He grabbed the snub-nose .38, which Newberry had clearly left in the car, and conked Nilo on the head with the barrel.
Newberry wrests the gun away and instantly executes Nilo with a clean shot to the back of the head.
And that's the moment the radio hero witnesses true, brutal murder.
And then he's forced to witness the cold, repulsive reality of the cover-up. Newberry wearing a full plastic coverall suit.
The meticulous professional killer.
Him and Wayne Feather dispose of Nilo and a previously killed Mexican gentleman as body bag enchiladas.
Oh.
That plastic suit is just chilling. It symbolizes Newberry's desire to keep himself pure, uncontaminated by the filth of his own actions.
It's a bureaucratic attempt to separate himself from the violence he commits.
And what was the business? Ray realizes they're cutting rat poison white gold dust from the hides of the dead mules. He's literally profiting from the death and misery he's causing.
And he justifies it all with this high-minded talk that just mirrors Ray's old heroic principles. He claims he's retiring from the Bureau with honor, using the money to buy land to provide security for his children, including Dolores, Amelia's daughter, who he plans to adopt.
He even claims the dead mules sacrificed themselves for the sake of a better future.
But Ray, ever the idealist, he refutes this, he notes. A sacrifice is something a person does voluntary. Newberry has weaponized the language of heroism to justify murder and smuggling.
And this overwhelming realization of betrayal, that the G-Man is the greatest villain of all, it pushes Ray to his final, desperate act. We move now to part 5, the final tragedy and cosmic philosophy.
Ray's last attempt to save anyone fails spectacularly.
He's convinced that Newberry, who he rightly calls a smiling slave trader, walking perversion, will corrupt Dolores. He fears Newberry will twist her facts, turn her truth into a lie, and ruin her existence.
So he abducts Dolores from her school, Mount Holyoke, where she'd been demoted to the 7-year-old class because she was struggling with the catechism.
The rescue, driven by pure intention, is immediately undermined by bureaucratic reality.
Dolores's asthma medication was in her locker. The nuns forbade her to carry it with her uniform. The rules of the institution trumped the needs of the child.
So when Dolores has a severe asthma attack after playing on Ray's dusty sofa, the disaster unfolds. Ray, the aging hero, tries the most intimate, heroic act imaginable.
The kiss of life.
But she convulses and bites his tongue. It's a shocking moment of physical betrayal. The life he's trying to give is rejected and results in this bloody union of their physical suffering.
He rushes her to Dr. Godfrey, who initially saves her. But the doctor later calls Ray back with the devastating news. She did not make it. The doctor promises to call her father, Special Agent John Newberry.
Ray's failure is total. He didn't save the innocent. He delivered her directly to her father through death.
And this immense failure, it breaks his human spirit. But it also leads to this moment of profound clarity that forms the basis of his postmortem theory. Atoms, souls, and event reincarnation.
He moves past the emotional pain and lands firmly on cold, immutable physics.
Right. He anchors his theory in scientific law. Matter or energy cannot be destroyed, they only change form. He uses examples like the life cycle of a banana, a star collapsing, the green Raymobile rusting away. Everything just rearranges.
And he applies this physical rule to the self, to the soul.
He concludes the soul must be located in the brain waves, the pure energy generated by the mind. And when he dies, his atoms, the fundamental particles from the Big Bang, will fly out and mix with the millions of particles from other ended lives.
Then the theory introduces the idea of the new soul.
Yes. These mixed particles will be attracted by gravity, cling together, and when they weigh the perfect amount together, they form a new soul, which gets pulled back to Earth. This isn't random. It's a chemically and gravitationally determined process.
Which means that the individual essence of every life, the sum total of their actions and experiences, is chemically preserved and recycled into the universe.
Exactly. And crucially, this doesn't lead to personal reincarnation, where Ray Green comes back as a dog or a king. It leads to event reincarnation.
People don't reincarnate, but the events do.
Because Ray was the type of person who experienced these specific betrayals, these specific heroic urges, these specific disillusionments, those complex patterns of existence will repeat.
His past life events, the love triangle, the heroic acts, the constant struggle against commercialism, they're now baked into the atomic structure of the universe, ensuring the cycle just perpetuates.
This knowledge gives him a strange kind of peace. His personal struggle wasn't pointless, it was just a necessary contribution to the next cycle of human experience.
But before he accepts this cosmic determinism, he reflects on the individuals who shaped his cynicism. This is his final disillusionment and choice. He looks back at David Arkash, who told him, "Low is the only level there is."
Defining humanity by its lowest common denominator.
And Annie LaSalle, who rejected his love by telling him, "You never gave me a choice, and everything you did came with a fish hook in it," implying even his affection was manipulative.
And even Amelia, the innocent he risked his life for, delivers the most brutal final judgment after she abandoned him. She realized he'd met Newberry.
She told him, "You think you know something's better. What you think is nothing. What you do is something."
Oof. Ray spent his life perfecting his thoughts about heroism. But Amelia points out that only his actions mattered, and his actions had led to disaster.
And these final cumulative insults lead him to his ultimate realization about the world's driving force.
The ultimate truth, Ray realizes, is that money connected every single one of these betrayals. From Spiller's cereal paying his salary, to David Arkash's need for glamour, to Newberry's miserable $2,250 a month desperation.
Money is the electricity. Money is the blood of the world.
The ideals of the Green Ray were always secondary to the toxic tide of commerce. And as he's writing this, he hears the inevitable outside his apartment. Newberry. The arch-foe is tapping his silver razor very polite on the window, asking him to open the door, fully expecting Ray to use that snub-nosed .38 on himself.
And Ray is at the final crossroads. He can fulfill Newberry's plan by killing himself, cementing himself as a victim.
Or he can fight. And he rejects the suicidal path he laid out in his opening lines. He chooses instead an act of ultimate nihilistic defiance.
He vows to do the worst thing I can think of and wake you up with it so nobody will get hypnotized by the shiny idea there is something good alive in the world.
His final act is not fueled by hope or justice. It's fueled by pure, unadulterated rage and disillusionment.
He chooses to become the cynical force he preached against, transforming his heroic ideal into a weapon of existential confrontation.
And his final words, "I am coming back." He means to fight Newberry. It ensures that the cycle of betrayal and confrontation, the very event reincarnation he prophesied, will begin again, perpetuated by his atoms.
So if we look back at Ray Green, at the Green Ray, what did he leave us in this remarkable document? We see this profound struggle between an idealized version of America and the commercial, cynical reality of his own existence.
We see that the body remembers the cost of commercialism, the constipation from Spiller's flakes, and that the hero's integrity is always for sale, even if the price is just avoiding a miserable FBI salary. The cynicism he gained in the 1940s was completely justified by the corruption he found in 1989.
The very things he sought to defend, innocence, justice, were repeatedly betrayed, and it forced him to discard the radio persona and use his own body as the final line of defense against a corrupt establishment.
It's an overwhelming tragedy, isn't it? His self-worth was dictated by a fictional voice, yet in his final, messy, unglamorous moments, he found a heroic truth, not through altruism, but through rage against the machine of money.
His entire life cycle illustrates his final philosophy. He began as an accident of naming, became a vessel for cynical propaganda, suffered betrayal, and ended as a pure atomic package of rage. If his atoms reassemble, the new soul they form will be burdened by the perfect weight of all his failures and his final desperate defiance.
Ray Green, a man who saw the human condition as an unending cycle of commercially motivated betrayal, theorized that our actions, our unique blend of hope and cynicism, are chemically preserved and constantly recycled by the universe.
So if the physical reality of the cosmos truly preserves the essence of every individual's actions and events, what kind of new soul might we be creating right now? And who is the ultimate villain in Ray Green's world? The Professor Horvath who wants to rule the world by destroying the mayonnaise supply? Or the John Newberry, the common man who commits murder simply to afford a modest retirement and provide his children with security?
I think the irony is that in Ray Green's final confrontation, the ultimate villain is the one who most successfully convinced himself that his crimes were actually sacrifices. That's the real betrayal.
That's a wrap on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.